Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and I'm joined by, well, say your name.
Joseph Roy Wright.
I don't have to look so closely forward, you just go, hi, I'm... Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video, and I am with...
Joseph Roy Wright.
Yeah, you did it. So thank you so much for joining me in this beautiful castle. Have you ever been here before?
Yeah, I've been here a few times.
In what capacity did you look around the grounds? Did you come in the pub? And what do you think of the place?
Oh, the chef here wanted to meet me because of my books and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you seen him today? Is he
I
around?
haven't seen him today, no.
What's he look like?
About my age, you know.
Is he bald?
No, he's got like long hair, I think.
Yeah. There is a chef downstairs, so maybe we can go have a look. So how did that come about then? Why did you wanted to meet him?
I post all over Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well about my books. Just get out there daily. Yeah. It's like a daily grind. And he spotted me and he said he wanted to meet me. So I come up here with all my books, which are on display now. One over there as well. Mm-hmm. And he just found it fascinating. So I had a little chin wag with him. Well,
that's a coincidence, isn't it? But with it being the castle, so when you look around this castle, are you inspired by it? Does it make you want to write about Runcorn? Because I know one of your books, which is your bestseller. Tell us about that book first before we get into anything deeper. I mean, where did that come about? Was it inspiration from your surroundings, or was it just write what you know?
Well, this book right here, Paranormal Homicide, is my bestseller. It's set in Runcorn, and it's inspired by Stephen King's
Yes.
Twin Peaks and a bit of Silent Hill. So it's like a detective drama, but the serial killer is a demonic monster from hell, and I don't want to spoil any more than that.
Yeah, don't spoil it because I haven't got halfway through it yet, so it's a bit of a... Yeah. I mean, what was it? Let's say, I've noticed there's a through line with all your books is that it's always set in like a northern, a gritty, dark grey. Is that your go-to? Is it something that you really like to write about?
I just feel like in today's age, there's too much, what do you call it? Like everything is clean and like happy and safe.
Like the Netflix originals where it's all saturated in colours and vibes and that. I mean, are you a massive horror fan? Is that something? Because I know your books, they're not slashers, are they?
Well, Paranormal Homicide is pretty much a slasher, but it's a police investigation as well, so it's a bit deeper than like Jason Voorhees. Exactly. You know what I mean? It's just like a police side to it as well. This book right here, Realms of Holloran, is all about the origins of all the demons in the books and where they come from. So that's kind of like the hell. So that's kind of like a main part of my series. Like, so all the monsters in Paranormal Homicide, the town named Bilmo, even my post-apocalyptic book has a few demons in it. They all stem from the realms of Holloran. So
yes, I love the concept. Talk about the one that's based in Liverpool. Name it for me. Which one's that?
Born Without Mothers.
Born Without Mothers. Is that still being written, or is it?
It's finished.
It's finished.
I'm going to add extra to it, like an extended version. I haven't got round to doing it yet, but I'm going to add like a few new chapters and an appendix at the end to sort of explain things a bit more. All right, yeah. And maybe a new cover as well.
Yeah, the only reason why I ask because again, that's my go-to. I love reading, watching about post-apocalyptic scenarios and seeing how human condition can cope and struggle with and strive. Is that what you're trying to find in these books? Are you trying to visualize mankind getting over these issues, or is it just something that you're entertained by?
Born Without Mothers is like a cyberpunk Blade Runner type of story. So it's in like a futuristic Liverpool with flying cars and stuff. And at the end of that book, well, I don't want to spoil it, but it's a prelude to my post-apocalyptic drama, New Order of Alexandria.
Yes.
So if you want to know what happened, read Born Without Mothers and then New Order of Alexandria. So every book I write is connected in some way or the other.
I was going to bring that up. And why is that then? Are you trying to build, like, I say cliche, a book universe here, or is that the thing?
Yeah, basically I want to do like a horror series version of like the Marvel universe or the DC universe where everything is connected. Yeah. And eventually there's going to be like a big end game
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to write like 100 books before that.
Wow, we could have a long time. Tell the audience how old you are. And not a location where you live, but whereabouts you come from.
I come from the Heath in Runcorn. I'm 26 years old, and I've been writing for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty new to it. Has this always been something that you've had a passion for when it comes to, well, like when you were a kid, you went, oh, I'll just write this sentence, or did you do drama classes, or where did it come from?
Well, I originally started doing art, so all the covers, I designed the covers as well. So that's my artistic skills, or the cover work. And I found that what I really wanted to do, like I didn't have the artistic capability to draw or create what I really wanted.
What do you mean, in what sense?
I found that I wanted to create comic books and stuff, tell stories, and I couldn't do the drawings good enough. So I found it easier to write about it, and then that's when like I could just write anything I wanted, and like when you're reading it, it comes to life in your head. Yeah. Hopefully, you know what I mean.
And how quick is the writing process for you? Is it something that you go and you can't help but get a few pages a day down, or how does it work for you?
Well, truth is, I still work 8 hours a day, so I don't make a lot of money on this, but I've made a few £100. You know what I mean?
It doesn't matter. I'm guessing it's not that you don't do it for that reason. You didn't start this go, oh, I'm going to be mega rich like JK or anything like that. This is something that you can't help it, can you?
Yeah, it's a passion. You know what I mean? I just want to get the stories out there and people to read them. If someone read my whole book all the way through and said it was great or even bad, but they never paid for it and it was just free, I'd be happier with that, with actual feedback rather than making loads of money. Because I've got a job, I'm all right. So it's not about the money; it's about the passion of storytelling. Yeah. So I want people to know I'm not here to make money or.
No, I mean, the only reason, because again, you talked about Twitter today, and that's how I connected to you, because I noticed you're promoting it and you're a local lad. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And he's got a local connection. So I reached out, and then I realised, hang on, he's pretty into this writing. So it became more and more fascinating to me how someone from the same town has so much talent in what they do. I mean, what were your parents like in all this? Did they really champion this for you? Did they want you to be a massive selling author? I know you don't want to be, it's not your thing, but if it did happen, because you don't know what's going to be successful or not, do you? So where were they in this? Were they like, go on, kid?
Well, I guess they didn't really believe in it at first, because it sounded far-fetched, you know what I mean?
Do you mean he wants to be a writer? Yeah, it's over there.
Well, I think because I've written articles online.
And what kind of articles?
They're free to read, vocal articles, and anyone can really make an article on there.
Yeah.
So when I started doing that, they were like, oh, that's reasonable. But when I said I'm going to be an author, they were like, but then years down the line, they're like, wow, you're doing really well. And they're proud of me now. So
that's brilliant. Do you want to shout them out and so give them away?
Hi, Mum and Dad. Thanks for supporting me over the years.
My mum and dad, they actively pushed me into acting. That's my background, an actor. So basically, it was like, go to theatre, go to theatre. Because I developed speech problems as a kid, and I needed that for elocution and that. And I'm obsessed with it now, and I'm obsessed with creation and creativity. And that's why these books, one of the notes I wrote down was that I love the descriptive nature of your content. Really? You can paint the picture in your head so simply. You don't have to go too far, and you're not over the top with that either. And I really appreciate that with the writing. So when it comes to writing, I mentioned before about the time it takes to write something like a paranormal homicide. So do you go through multiple drafts of this, or do you...
I kind of just like go over the one draft a million times. And sometimes when I finish it, I'll look back and I think, that's a bit weird, or that's a bit like convoluted or boring. So I'll remove things, add things, and I just really make sure everything is perfect, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're all self-published at the moment, but so I haven't found a proper publisher yet, but maybe one day.
I mean, I don't know much about publishing. I'm not going to pretend I do, but is there a specific publisher you've got in mind, or is that something that they come to you for and say, we like this?
Well, there are Pacific horror publishers, and I contacted one, and I had the interview with them and everything, and it was this book actually, Paranormal Homicide. They actually wanted to accept it, but they wanted to turn it into like a 3-part series, so take what the book already was and split it into 3.
Why was that? Is it just because they could release it in bite-sized chunks and then keep the energy flowing with it?
Yeah, they wanted to take this book that I've already written and split it into 3 like little bite-sized series, and I was all for it, but they didn't dislike it. They just said the way it's structured, you can't really split it into 3. So it has to be like one contained story. But they said, you know, if you got any other horror stories, please send them our way, basically. So, I mean, I nearly got published traditionally. But
it'll work out in the end, because obviously it might not have been right for this, because it is a book that's worth reading in one big session, really. But it will come in time. Maybe you've got ideas coming now that I don't know about, where you're thinking about that. Are you thinking about that next? Or is it just happened?
I've got like a million ideas already. I'm currently working on an anthology horror series set around the northwest of England. So I've already written 2 stories set in Runcorn. The third one's going to be in Widnes. I was going to do one in Northwich called...
There's very horror down there, isn't it?
Yeah. It's going to be called The Northwich.
Okay.
In Northwich.
You see what he did there? And why Northwich? Why that random place? Obviously the title's amazing, but why Northwich?
Because I've been there a few times, and so it's based around places I've actually been to.
Yeah.
So like, I went to like a fun fair like around Widnes or Runcorn, and I thought, oh, what if I made it like a sort of like a creepy fun fair where there's like a clown, a bit like Stephen King's It.
Yeah.
And then that kind of spawned into like a little story. And these anthologies that I'm writing, I'm thinking of making them full of books, depending on how well they get received, basically.
Yeah, the anthology series, again, I love, because it's like the Twilight Zone and Black Mirror and stuff, they're all very much, you know, you can take them out of context anywhere, you can watch them any order, and they're all their own thing, and having it in book form.
It's a very popular idea. A lot of authors do that. They write like solo books, like what I do, like what contain stories. And then sometimes they do little anthologies, you know what I mean? Yeah. For example, Town Named Bilmo is a book I wrote. It's only about 120 pages. So I could have wrote like a trilogy in one book, and it would be about 300 odd pages. Yeah. And that would be like a Bilmo anthology, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So sometimes you write a story and you can't make it longer because it's perfect length, but it's short. So it's hard to sell. So you might like bundle a few stories together and link them up. Yeah. So then that's when you start writing anthologies.
Is there a theme in those anthologies? Are you going to try and structure it with the same themes, or is it going to be like I said about Black Mirror or something just out of context?
Well, one of them is actually a sequel to Paranormal Homicide. So one of the characters from this book appears in one of the short stories. Yeah. Andrew Bates, his name is. So fans of my book might know who that character is. Yeah. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but he appears in the anthology series. So everything is just connected. Like you'll read one of my books and then the other one, and you'll be like, oh wait, that's that character, or that's that thing, or that's a reference to this.
So like an Easter egg where you get in a normal TV show and series and that, which I love looking for those little nuggets of stuff.
There's little nuggets as well, but the more I write, the more I'm trying to like connect them all together. So at first they were just little nuggets and Easter eggs, but now I'm trying to like combine them together. Yeah. So it's kind of like starting my own little Marvel universe in my books. You know,
I love it. It's the ambition behind what you're saying. It's so. I mean, I know Marvel's sort of fizzled out a little bit in my opinion, but you know, I don't know anyone else who's talking like this about novels. I mean, what other novelists do you know in the area? Do you have like meetups, or do you spitball ideas? How does it work?
I've met a few authors around Runcorn, but only at like Comic Cons and stuff like that, like the Halton Comic Con.
I've never been. I really want to go, and I keep missing it every time. There's a Doctor Who thing going on in Liverpool soon, and I'm dying to go to that. I keep missing them. So how often do they take place? And
if you go up the city, like just keep an eye on the Halton news websites or whatever, and they'll be saying like there's sometimes a while ago there was a author named Barb Atwood, and she had a book signing in Runcorn Shopping Centre, so I met her. But I don't have like meetings with authors and stuff. I just met them at Comic Cons and
Not
stuff.
like Authors United or something like that. Something.
Maybe one day.
I mean, I know it's a very personal thing, writing a book or not a novel, or even in my profession, which is all about screenplays and scripts. You need each other sometimes to sort of bounce off each other. You know, are you say a lonely writer, but do you like the solitude of writing? Is that what happens?
I like to get lost in my own little stories that I write. Sometimes I forget I'm writing a book and I'm like, sort of, it's coming alive. Like it's already alive in my head and I'm just writing it down. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it's a bit of a weird thing where my head is already coming up with a story and I'm just writing it down. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like a movie in my head and I'm just writing down what happens.
And that is talent. That is, I mean, you can't overestimate or underestimate how talented that is, because, you know, there's sometimes where I've tried to write a script and even if you think you're doing a good job, you're not. You know, and it takes someone with pure imagination to sort of get lost in that thought process. I mean, do you class yourself as very smart, clever? Did you go to university? How did it develop from a kid to now?
Well, I've gone back to college to study English, and my parents and my sister, family have said that my writing has gotten even better. Yeah. So I've gone back to study at college. In school and stuff, I was a bit of a slacker. But as I grew up, I kind of... Put the jacket back on. Yeah. As I grew up, I kind of realised, well, you know, if I want to be a successful writer, I've got to get my act together. And, you know, most of my books have gotten 5-star reviews. You know what I mean? Pretty much the first 4 got 5-star reviews. My latest one is still fairly new, so there's no reviews yet, but I'm confident it'll get 5 stars. They always do.
Talk about the one behind you there, Born Without Mothers.
Yeah, Born Without Mothers, yeah. Very strange title.
It's very good. I like the simplicity of that. I mean, it's just beautiful. So tell me about it. What's it alluding to?
Well, like I said, it's a prequel to my post-apocalyptic adventure book, and it's basically what the futuristic society was like before the apocalypse. Yeah. And in the book, there's basically men are cloned to work, so like everyone else can like sort of live a life of luxury, and the clones have to do all the bad work and stuff. And the main character, Tom 12. The 12th Tom in the facility basically escapes like this big evil warehouse. It's like a prison where everyone gets treated like animals by the human staff. So it's like a metaphor for like bad jobs, basically.
Is it a morality tale, do you think? Is it alluding to the fact of how we treat things that are sentient but not quite sentient, or they've not got rights? Or, I mean, what are you trying to say about the concept of it?
Well, every book I write, even the fantasy and sci-fi and post-apocalyptic books, the characters I try and make real. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so everything in the books, even if they're in space, the characters I try and make them real life. You know, like real people, like based off myself. Other people I know, based off real struggles. So Born Without Mothers is basically like a big metaphor for how I've felt in like, you know, really bad jobs where I've been mistreated or let go for pathetic reasons. And it's just a lot of anger, and I'm like, oh, you know, that's basically what it is. Yeah. But all my books are like that, you know. A lot of the horror in my books, even though it's supernatural, it's based off like real things I've seen and been like, oh, you know what I mean? So a lot of the demons and monsters are based off like, you know, but they're all metaphors for basically like real life monsters. Yeah. You know, what
that's the best way to write, because that's how people relate to what your material is saying. Yeah. I liked, there was an episode of Doctor Who in similar to that where it's called The Flesh, the Rebel Flesh, and it was very much about they had clones of each other and they suddenly became a life form in their own right, but they were taking over their own body, the other person's body, and it was such a great concept. Yeah. And I loved that, the ambiguity, the what do we do situations of material like this. So if you were to say, let's say one of your books gets turned into a film, would you be happy with that?
I'd be over the moon, honestly. Well, I mean, that's why I said it's like a Marvel book verse. I want it to be like a horror version, like a dark Marvel universe, where instead of like actually the Conjuring universe, you know, because it's got the spin-offs on it, Annabelle. There's others like the Nun.
My daughter loves that. She loves that.
So I'm trying to write like the Conjuring universe, but in books.
Yeah.
And even the more silly sort of sci-fi ones have demonic elements in there. Yeah. So like one day I'm thinking of writing a book called Cyber Demon, which will be set in like a Blade Runner city. Yeah. But there's like a demon that has like cybernetic sort of powers as well as being a demon as well. So it'd be like a sort of Terminator turned demonic monster book.
Please keep in touch when you write that, because I love that. Because I've always loved
Cyber Demon.
Obviously my big thing was Star Trek back in the day, because I liked very much like an anthology at the time, where it's episodes standalone. They're dealing with the moral quandary of the day and that, and then it's more recently gone into more arches, you know, overriding arches. But now we're trying to go back to episodes again, like with I don't really think about Stranger Things, and I mean there's a new series of that come out. I haven't even seen it yet. I think it's got a bit weird at the moment. But as I say, if this book got turned into a film, would you want it to be a British-made film or a big Hollywood blockbuster, do you think?
Well, realistically, I think it would be like a independent found footage, like Amazon sort of Prime, you know, like one of them cheap films. That would be like the realistic interpretation of basically. I don't think I could do Paranormal Homicide, the movie, because there's too many characters and there's too many like nightclubs, so it cost a lot of money.
Well, and the thing is, you know, in a screenplay, just some things are lost in the rewriting of it into a screenplay, which is a bit of a shame. And you said before, it's perfect as it is. Yeah. So trying to break that would be a terrible waste, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, them publishers who were interested in publishing the book, I had an interview with them. They said the writing was really good. They just said they wanted to split it into 3, and it was impossible because if you did that, there'll be just like 3 little rubbish books, but altogether it's a good story. You know what I mean?
Do you take comfort in that, knowing that your writing is so tight, it's so concise that there's nothing you can do to make it better? You know what I mean? You can't even change it, because it'd be like going up to the Mona Lisa and going with a silly moustache. I mean, you can't alter perfection, can you?
No, can't. No. So I guess it's a strange, like, good diss in a way that they were like...
Well, it's not a diss, is it? They've come up and gone, we love it, but we don't want to ruin it, you know, and that's the way it is, really. I mean, do you think that that's always going to be an issue, the fact that your writing does create that problem that you can't adapt it over the novels?
With that company, I think I would have to write a series tailored to their style, and I thought about doing that, but you know, it would take a long time and they could still deny it. So I mean, it's not something I'd really want to write. I mean, the anthology series I could maybe split up into 3 volumes, but that's not what they're looking for either. But I'd rather write what I want to write regardless.
Well, and they come to you independently, don't they? It's not like you're going, right, I plan to write Paranormal Homicide or Born Without Mothers. It's just something that you start off doing, and then it becomes its own thing, like any other creative process. So what is there a time where you go, oh, I can't be bothered with all this today, I just want to do something else? Is there another passion you've got other than writing, do you think?
Well, I do YouTube as well.
Oh,
yeah.
What's your YouTube channel?
New Order of Alexandria.
Okay. And what's all that about then? Is it more the same? Is it promotional?
It started off about the books, but I realised people really like video game content.
Oh, so you're a gamer, are you?
It's a gaming channel now, yeah.
I'm not really big on gaming, but I admire it because it gets a lot of crowds, doesn't it? What's your subscriber base at the moment?
How many subscribers?
Yeah.
990.
Bloody hell! You're creeping up to monetization, sir.
Yeah, I only need about like 10 followers on there, and then I'll get monetization from it. So, you know, that's my second like passion to do YouTube and hopefully become like PewDiePie, I guess, you know.
Oh, really? Well, are you? So let's say you do gaming, but is there anything else you do on the channel? Like, because mine, I mean, I've tried to split mine into multiple because I want to do local stuff like local campaigning, local promotions, and local interviews and stuff, but I can't do it on my main channel because it's so focused on entertainment. So now I've had to make another YouTube channel to cater for that market because they're like, well, I don't want to watch this nonsense, and they unsubscribe on it. So it's a balancing act, isn't it? How do you keep it all together?
Well, originally my channel was about the books. That's why it's named after my first book, New Order of Alexandria. But people on YouTube weren't really interested, and I had the channel before that, and people were leaving. So, like you said, you have to kind of stick to a niche with YouTube. Yeah. But sometimes I do like comedy sketches. I'm not in them. I kind of like take clips from like movies and like edit them so they say funny things and stuff like that.
Oh, so you're like, I see what you're going, because I mean, I love that sort of thing where you get a clip from like, I don't know, Star Trek or whatever, and you make it sound like they're saying something else, or you overdub it, or like the bad lip reading clips. You know, it's so funny because it's, you know what they're saying is not that, but it's so funny. I mean, tell us about your most popular clip and what you did.
My most popular video is a bit lazy, really. Do you know the Smiler theme from Halton Towers?
Yes.
I just looped it for 15 minutes and it got like 900,000 views. And that's my most viewed video.
What?
Yeah. It's just like it's just the same song for 15 minutes and people comment on it and love it because, yeah.
See, this is what frustrates me, because I could take ages of editing a video that I've put so much energy in, and then it's like gets 50 views or whatever. And I do one where I've not got a pair of pants on, it's a clip, and it goes mental. Yeah. You know, like I filmed a train going past Runcorn a few months ago, the Flying Scotsman. That got 4,000 views or something. Yeah. Yeah. And that's it, you know, no editing required, no nothing. So, am I missing a trick here?
It's basically, if you do something based off something that's already well known, you've already got a big audience then. Yeah. So I feel like with paranormal homicide, maybe a lot of Paranormal Activity fans read the book thinking it's like a Paranormal Activity book, which it is. I wrote it, basically.
Don't rub it in.
Yeah. But, so I feel like maybe that's why that's a bestseller as well, because it's in Runcorn, so a lot of people know Runcorn. You know, book in Runcorn, so it sells well because of that. Paranormal Homicide reminds people of Paranormal Activity, so people buy it because of those two reasons. So
plus I think paranormal, you type paranormal into YouTube, and you get all sorts of different issues coming up, whether that's a real life, you know, going into castles and like this and going, oh, is anyone there? Yeah. Or like you say, the fictional, you know, people are fascinated by that concept, aren't they? And is it something that you'd do? Would you, as someone who writes it, would you love to meet a spirit? Or would you go into an empty room and do a seance? I mean, what's your real life ambition there?
Well, I'd get a Ouija board and contact the demon and say I want to write a book, and they'll probably kill me.
Well, did make you write about it first and then kill you. Yeah. But get it published first. Yeah. I mean, tell me about your passion. Your what do you like to watch on TV? Did you stay awake? Because I know a lot of writers, they tend to sort of about watching other people's stuff on TV just in case it colours their own imagination. What do you think?
Well, I'm the opposite.
Really?
Because I try and read like every Stephen King novel. Yeah. Like I've read some of his like more obscure titles like Later. I've watched all of his movies, The Shining, Pet Sematary, Doctor Sleep is the new one. Seen the It movies. So, you know, I try and consume as much horror sort of media as possible. Yeah. But, you know, I always try and keep it original. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not going to like copy Stephen King's It exactly.
The thing is, if you admire someone I do this as an actor too. When you admire an actor, you somehow it comes into your performance, and sometimes it can colour it because you sort of you go, oh crap, this is too close to what I admire, and you try and do your own thing. So I know a lot of people who will go, right, I'm not going to tune into it because if I do, it becomes a copy. It takes some skill to partition that in your brain. I mean, I'm guessing you do that quite well, don't you?
Well, like my horror stories are based off my own experiences, but with a sort of supernatural sci-fi fantasy twist. But basically, you know, I take a lot of inspiration from a lot of things. So I play horror games, I watch horror movies, I watch horror TV shows, I read horror comics, you know, with all the monsters in them. I try and read as much horror, so instead of just sticking to like Stephen King, I'll read a bit of like, you know, a bit of everything, you know what I mean, and try and like sort of mix it all up in a bit of a soup in my head, and then write what's in here.
So it's basically taking everything you've learned and going, what tickles that for me, what gets me excited.
Yeah, so I watch all these things and I think, what is it that I love about every single one of these things, and I put them all together, and then I write a book. And with the horror games, I feel like that's the scariest media, because when you're playing a horror game, you have to face the demons yourself. You can't just do that, you know what I mean?
well, this is the thing. My friend is trying to get me into the VR, you know, the whole thing, and you're going around the house. I keep saying, piss off, you're not getting me on that, because I get too scared. It's the imagination with me. My mind is activated too much. So if I'm watching a film, even if it's just a small thriller with the idea of something in the background, like a noise, that terrifies me. It doesn't have to be blood and guts. I mean, what do you think of the horror genre as it is at the moment? Do you think it's in a good place? You know, across the board, it doesn't have to be books, it can be films.
I think it was better in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, I've heard that.
With, you know, Friday the 13th, The Nightmare on Elm Street, The Thing, The Fly, you know, when it was really gory and practical effects. You watch, like, The Nun now, and, like, it's just, like, bah, every 5 seconds. Like, oh, you know.
Well, it's because they're trying to get your attention. They're shouting at you. They're shouting at you, whereas...
desperate.
Yeah. You mentioned like The Thing and The Fly, and I know the Jeff Goldblum one in particular, The Fly. My God, you know, it's gory, but it's not in the way. It's for the story. It's there for a reason, and nowadays you don't seem to get that. It's all about, look, I've just slit his throat. What next? what next?
It's all about the scare, not the story, and. That's what, with these books, when you're reading them, they start off very like scary, demon chasing you, but halfway through it turns into like a drama, where even Paranormal Homicide, it's set in Runcorn. Halfway through the book, you think you're reading like a crime thriller, because the police are investigating it like it's a real crime thriller. So it turned into sort of like a CSI Runcorn.
Which is great.
And then, like, that's why they can't solve it. They're like, they're trying to scratch their head trying to solve this thing, but it's because it's supernatural. They can't figure it out. So it's kind of like a cat and mouse with the demon.
Yeah. And then obviously in the middle of that, there's those moments which are meant to scare and meant to take you out of your comfort zone and stuff. I mean, do you think Runcorn is ripe for creativity? Because we mentioned before, we've got Susan, who wrote 2 Pints of Lager back at Crisp. We've had many shows and TV shows coming up here to film. You've got writers, you've got actors, you've got singers, all coming from this borough, and now you as well. So what do you think it is about Runcorn that's so inspiring?
I just think there's a lot. It's a very small town. Not many people have heard about it. You know, it's not like a big city like Liverpool and Manchester. It's not even like a famous town, really. You know what I mean? I mean, like you said, there's a few things based here, but most people around the world don't really know what Runcorn is. So it's kind of like this little mysterious town to the northwest of England.
Or like John Bishop says, shop, chippy, pub.
I think it's a bit more unique than that, you know. Like we're in the castle right now, and it's very like mysterious, isn't it?
I love it. I love it. I do all my interviews here if I can. This fireplace and all, it's been here for how long? Since the 1700s. The history in these walls and the ruins. It just fascinates me. And if you were to write something about this castle, you'd be here with multiple books, I think.
Well, Realms of Solaride is actually like a medieval fantasy series, and it's about all the demons that are in my other supernatural books. So basically, because Realms of Solaride is like medieval England, it's inspired by the likes of the castle and some of the like more quieter sort of old-fashioned areas of Runcorn. You know, like I'm really into Runcorn's older history before it become modern. You know, when it was like a little farmland and stuff like that. You know, so that's kind of like what Realms of Solaride is sort of inspired by. You know, Runcorn's sort of darker past. You know what I mean?
I love it. Because Runcorn has got a rich and deep history that I don't think this is where my campaign's going, because I don't think we appreciate it, and not just us, but we do, but the local leaders, people who live here, they don't think they appreciate what we've come to. I think they don't. mean, case in point, the Waterloo Centre has just been earmarked for demolition in the old town, and that's an historic building, and they've left it to rot. And to me, thanks to the people who run this castle, actually, they've managed to bring something in again and make use of the space. By the way, bit of a plug, there's a beer festival going on here in July. I can't wait. The 8th to the 10th, and it's going to be all sorts of fun. The community's coming out, and you're more than welcome to come along and see people, but it's making use of what you've got and then looking back. And I don't know if you can see around these walls, there's that old building too. You see that woman there in that picture? Yeah. She looks like you could write a story about her and why she stood there. If you were to look at that picture now, just off topic, and go, do you get inspired by? Do you look at things visually and go, oh my god, and you visualize a story from it?
Well, yeah, like it's a creepy old house. It looks like the early 1800s. There's a standing woman in black. Kind of reminds me of The Woman in Black.
Yes, yeah.
So, I kind of imagine like she's like a demon or ghost staring at the camera.
What are you doing staring? I mean, it's a fascinating photograph, because again, there's no context to it.
There's no context.
So, as a novelist, you must find inspiration everywhere. You look at a photograph of someone out of context and go, huh, yeah, this is what I think she's doing that for. So
write a whole story.
Write a whole story about it. I mean, so you say about, I was saying before, alluding to the fact your locations are very much, I say, grey, dark, brooding, atmospheric, because that's what it conjures in my mind when I read where you write. Will there be one point where you just go, I'm just going to write a comedy now?
No.
It's just the quickest answer to the question.
Well, Runcorn, parts of it can be a bit riff-raff, you know what I mean? Without dissing my home, I mean, I love it here, but, there's been some bad things I've seen happen. So that's where a lot of that gritty sort of like, oh, this is horrible, miserable sort of feeling comes from. Yeah. And if I'm writing horror, the world has to be realistic. And what I did with Paranormal Homicide is that I tried to make Runcorn itself and the way police and characters act realistic as possible. So every character is hopefully meant to sort of make you feel like, oh, this person really exists. And this bizarre, supernatural, demonic murderer is on the loose. Yeah. And it's just like normal people dealing with a sort of larger-than-life supernatural monster. And I think that's why it's my best-selling book.
Because you can take yourself there. Do you know what sales performance is like by location? Is it a local popular book, or is it published across the country? Where's your best location to sell the book?
It comes up on Amazon Kindle telling me where the book is sold,
right?
But only the countries. And in the United Kingdom, I have made £105 online. I've made 12 American dollars. I've made about 8 Canadian and about 3 Australian dollars. So it's mostly in Great Britain. But those are just online sales. I've sold a lot of copies in person. So I've made over £400 since starting 5 years ago, and every day it just seems to be getting more and more popular. Good. And I get closer and closer to doing it full time. So, hopefully everyone gives the book a read. Any of them?
Again, I hope they do. I mean, one of the things... Actually, tell me about this. Audiobooks. Would you translate these into audiobooks, into Audible or podcasts form? What do you think of them?
Well, I try to read my shortest novel, The Town Named Bilmo, out loud, and I just kept stuttering, even though I wrote it. Like, it's just hard to write and read it and then make it sound good.
Well, look, that's where voiceover artists come in and do that. I mean, I've auditioned a few times for book readings on podcasts and that, but it takes a good, skillful actor and a good writer to bring that to life. And as you said about your book, it will take someone with real skill to bring your text to life, because it is really good in your head. Do you know what I mean? So, well, we're going to wrap it up in just a sec, because I want to keep these interviews shorter, because we could talk forever. But if there's, tell me about how people could support your work, because I know it can be a difficult slog to be fun, to self-fund or to crowdfund. What's the best way for people to come up and go, I like this guy, let me help?
Well, obviously, like, not everyone is going to be willing to spend... they're only £2 to read on Amazon, the Kindle version. The book's physical, about £10. But not everyone is going to want to read, pay money to help out. But if you want to help out, I also do... I got the YouTube as well, yes, but that's all about gaming. But if you're interested in my writing specifically, I do vocal articles, and basically every read I get a penny. So if you want to help me out that way without paying money, as I understand, you can just read my articles for free, and there are book previews for every book I do. So if you want to read a little bit about my books without spending money, you can read them all on Vocal Media, like just the first chapters, the book previews. I also put a bit of the art in there as well. So if you go on Vocal Media, Joseph Roy Wright, you will find all my articles, and you can read all of them and make a penny. So
if you give me those links after the interview, definitely. I'll put them in the link down below. Just because I think a lot of the time when I talk to people, guys, I've talked to actors, MPs, councillors. I've even done singer at one point. I've interviewed a lot of people, and the common thread is that they always need that little bit of support, because it's lonely sometimes, isn't it, to do what you do and trying to get that traction, especially as a local lad. I understand it. So, okay, let's fling out a cliche question. 5 years in the future, where do you want to be with your novels? Where do you want to be with books? Where's your ideal position in the world? Do you want to be... Well, tell me what you want to be.
Well, I'd like to be Stephen King levels famous and have movie adaptations, but realistically, I think in 5 years, what I want is, at least just the ability to write full time and YouTube as well, and just that be my job. Even if I only get £400 to £500 a month from it, just enough to live on, or even stay with my parents and just do this as my job would be amazing. Yeah. So that's what I want, really. Even if it's not a lot of money, if I could do this full time writing, yeah, I'd write a lot more books. I'd finish my horror verse.
Yeah. Oh God, it's such a great concept.
And
how much does this mean to you to be a writer? Does it really get you down sometimes that you want to just keep doing this, but then, like you say, you're not quite at the point where it's self-sufficient yet? I mean, does it get you down?
It used to. When I wrote my first book, I thought, this time next year I'm going to be in LA,
waving on the carpet.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to. I didn't think that would happen, but I thought maybe, But then 5 years down the road, still live with my parents, I'm still working, so... But you get used to it, and I'm just happy people are still reading it to this day, and that people still want me to write more books, and... I take fan suggestions as well. So some fans have actually reached out and said, you should write about this. And I have. So took inspiration from what they wanted to see Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if anyone wants me to write about a specific thing, you know, well, I'll make my own twist on it, but I'm always open to fan suggestions, and hopefully that's what I want to do, just full-time writer, even if I'm not a millionaire, you know what I mean?
You're taking sort of inspiration again from those people, those creatives who really get in and deep with the fans, because the fans drive your work. You know, without the fans going along for the ride, you've got nothing, have you? You know, all you've got to do is listen and learn from them, because they will always steer the right way.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I had no fans, I wouldn't get any sales, and I'll just be writing books and no one would read them.
Well, exactly. But fans, again, fans is very specific, because they don't just buy your stuff, they love your stuff. Yeah. So they will support you. Say you bring out another copy of the book that's got another paragraph, or another movie that's got another scene. Yeah. They'll keep buying and lapping it up, because they love the way you tell your story. And if you're engaged with them, they feel that they're important and special in that. So fair play to you for getting out and doing that, because not many novelists do. They just go, there you are, man of a book. So you said before you have a girlfriend. Yeah. How supportive is she? Is she into this too?
She's very supportive of my writing and stuff, and says, you know, you should do well in college and then get a job as a writer. Yeah. And then, you know, keep writing and build up to the point where eventually I could do this full time. Yeah. As you were saying about people liking one book and then reading the others. Yeah. Well, this is a bestseller, Paranormal. So most people just buy that book, and I think most people buy it just because it's a horror book in Runcorn, paranormal. So they're not really thinking about me, the author. They're thinking about paranormal activity, Runcorn. But what I got yesterday, actually, my more obscure books, Realms of Holloran and New Order of Alexandria, which rarely sell, sold. Right, 2 copies yesterday. Okay. So to me, it feels like people are reading my main bestseller, and if they really like it enough, they read my other books. Yeah. So people have reached out to me after reading the main one and said, wow, that's really good, and then they've read the other books. So even if my other books aren't selling very well, I just hope, and I think it has happened, where people have read my main one and then read my other books. So, you know, it's worth doing, you know what I mean? I might even write a sequel to Paranormal Homicide, since it is the bestseller.
True. I mean, we were talking about YouTube before, and, you know, if you put a YouTube video that is all right, and then one that explodes, you've got to keep mining the one that explodes, because it's your most popular, you found your audience. Some people go against that gut feeling, don't they? So fair play to you again for listening to that and going, well, this is what is selling, so let's continue it. But you don't want to do that against your creative spirit, which is always to do whatever comes out of your body, really. You know, and that's the thing that I admire the most. I do appreciate the fact that you are just thinking about these things, because not a lot of people do. They just go, no, I've got my vision, fuck 'em. You know. And by the way, I'm allowed to swear on these, unless you want me to bleep it out for your audience. They're into horror, what am I on about? So, is there anything you want to say to the audience before we wrap up? Anything you want to thank people who've inspired you, who've helped you, and yeah, go ahead, fire away.
Well, just wanted to thank everyone who's bought a copy of my book, everyone who's read, even, you know, you don't even have to buy, just so everyone who's given me feedback, good or bad, appreciate it, you know. Even the bad reviews I've listened to, I've gone back and changed a few things, and then the books have gotten even better reviews, even better sales. So I appreciate all criticism, all praise, you know, and I really love it, you know, and it's changed my life for the better, I think, honestly. This is my life, being a writer, you know, this is my passion, and I want to keep doing it forever.
I love it. Anyway, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much for meeting me, and please support this guy. He's working his ass off. Yeah. He is a novelist through and through. He's not just doing this because of fame or money. He's doing it because he has to. That's who you are. Yeah. So come back again in a year's time and let me know how you're doing, and we'll go from there. If you like this guy, follow him, and yeah, let's go from there. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
See you in a bit.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Give him a wave.